Have you ever wondered if you're doing a good job as a leader, or if you're doing a good enough job as a leader, or if there's something else you could be doing more as a leader? I believe you need to be able to answer that question with total certainty at any time of the day. And I also believe that the people who report to you and the people that work with you should be able to look at what they're doing and within 10 seconds know if they are winning at their job for that day. Sometimes when I ask people this question, they kind of stumble over their words. Well, I think I'm doing a good job. I feel like I'm doing a good job. What would the people who report to you say? Would they say you're doing a good job as a leader? Well, I think they would. They're kind of, I think they're happy. The question seems to bring with it this uncertainty. It actually seems to create a lack of confidence. It seems to kind of bottle people up and make them feel, well, If you have ever felt that way at the question, are you doing a good job as a leader? Odds are somewhere along the line, somebody gave you a definition of leadership that just simply doesn't work in the real world. I want to share with you a definition that works. And when you see why this works, this will increase your sense of freedom in leadership. This will increase your sense of power and effectiveness in leadership. Let's get started. Hey, if we haven't met before, my name is Jarrod Haning. My company's Mindset Performance, and I deal with a lot of business owners and a lot of leaders. My clients normally double their income by purposely working half as many hours. Now, I know that sounds like craziness, but we use a Nobel Nominated process that teaches them how to think at a higher level. In this video, I want to share with you a couple things that differentiates the leaders who seem to always have enough time, always have enough money. It seems like they have the golden touch and everything they do just goes great, versus the people that are in positions of leadership that seem to always be stressed. They seem to always have more on their to-do list than they have time to get done. They seem to always be working harder and faster, and it just seems like they end up at the same spot every year. They made the same amount of money, they reached the same amount of people, they made the same level of difference. What are they supposed to do different? I'm going to share with you a definition of leadership that I believe will give you clarity on that and what you can start doing today to double your effectiveness and decrease the amount of effort it takes to get there. Sometimes when I hear people talk about leadership, they talk about what I call the 5 C's. I'm going to uncover these in a little bit, and I bet you have heard these when you hear people talk about leadership. They talk about things like certainty. They say leadership is about being certain in what you're doing and taking certain actions and being clear. Leadership is about certainty. Or maybe they say leadership is about confidence. You're confident in what you're doing, you communicate with confidence, you speak with confidence. Or leadership is about courage. It's about being at the front of the line. It's about paving the way, leading the charge. Here we go. Leadership is about communication. Leaderships have to work with people. They have to have hard conversations. They got to talk about the project. They have to be able to give up and stand before a crowd and share the vision of the company and deliver that speech, communicate with confidence and certainty. No. Leadership is really about command. It's about who makes the decisions. What are the decisions going to be? Can you make the decision quickly? Can you decide under pressure? Can you delegate? You take care of this task. You take care of that task. My friends, if you are operating by these definitions of leadership, then it would make sense if you find yourself doubting yourself through the day. If you find yourself, well, I didn't feel very confident today, so maybe that means I wasn't a good leader. I didn't feel really courageous. I had a hard time communicating what we needed to do. And because of that, I didn't feel like I was a good leader. These definitions are not leadership. These are personality traits. These are things that we enjoy seeing in leadership, but they aren't leadership themselves. They only apply in very circumstantial situations. These are the definitions that apply if somebody is running into a house that's on fire or charging into a firefight on the battlefield. They apply in very short-term emergency situations. But that's not how we live day in and day out. Day in and day out, we're in meetings. We're on conference calls. We're drafting proposals. And because of that, if we're in that space, using these definitions, we're going to lose every day. Something else about these definitions. They're very, very subjective, okay? Courageous. Courageous is only a label that gets applied after the fact, in hindsight, if it was successful. If it wasn't successful, they say, oh, that was foolish. They really should have thought about that more. They should have taken more time to think that through. I wouldn't have made a decision like that. Courage only applies after the fact if it's hindsight. Confidence. Confidence only gets applied after the fact if it's hindsight too. If it was a bad decision, we say, oh, that person is really abrasive. That person is a real jerk. I don't like the way that person talks to me. But if it works out great, they say, oh, that person was inspiring. They really inspired me to action, and I respect them. Subjective personality traits that only get applied after the fact. This is leadership under fire. This is leadership under pressure. This is leadership when the house is on fire, when running into a firefight on the battlefield. It applies circumstantially to very short term. But if you're using this for your day in and day out, you're gonna feel, geez, I don't know, I didn't really take command today. I wasn't sure what the right decision was. Let me share with you a target that you can hit every day. And this definition of leadership will leave you feeling more free, more empowered, able you to get more done by working more less hours and reach more people and make a bigger difference. All right, here we go. There are only two things that matter when it comes to your job in leadership. Now, I work with a lot of business owners. I work with a lot of leaders. What we do is we look at how they think. We look at how their mind solves problems and how it views the world. And I want to show you some graphs on different ways that some people solve problems. When we talk to somebody that prides themselves in being an achiever, a real go-getter, boy, they get things done and they take action and they get things done, and getting things done is what matters at the end of the day anyways. Boy, I mean, they show up early and they stay late and they hustle hard and oh man, it's great. But then you pull them aside and they say, truthfully, there's always more on my to-do list than I have time to get done. And it feels like working harder and faster doesn't really fix that. Because tomorrow I just got to work harder and faster again. At the end of the day, I might have checked some things off my to-do list, but it just kind of feels like I spent most of my time doing somebody else's job. When they feel that way, it produces a certain pattern as we map out their thinking patterns. I'm going to show you a small snapshot of what that particular pattern looks like, the way of thinking. And in this picture here, I want you to notice that we have kind of three columns. One column for empathy, for emotions, one column for doing things, for taking actions, and another column for planning, thinking, structure, that kind of thing. Notice that the person who prides themselves on being a go-getter, an action taker, a check things off the to-do lister, they have a very high emphasis on taking action. They have a very low emphasis on how other people feel around them, and a low emphasis on planning at times. For this person, they say things like, man, I could really get something done if I didn't have to do all this planning. If it wasn't for this paperwork, I could really be out there getting something done. This is such a waste of time, this planning, and it shows up as an obstacle to getting things done. For them, people, delegating, they say, you know what, man, I've tried hiring an assistant in the past. I've tried delegating in the past, and I just have to go do it anyways after them because they mess it up. I would have gotten it done faster had I just done it myself. I don't have time to teach somebody else how to do this because by the time I teach them how to do it, I could have just done it myself. It's this way of thinking that says the best way to solve problems is for you to take action. So what their brain does is it looks for more things to do. And that's why at the end of the day, there's more on their to-do list than they have time to get done. And day after day after day, no matter how hard and how fast they work, it just keeps going. This is not leadership. It feels good. We get like a dopamine hit. Oh man, I checked some things off my to-do list. Boy, I got some stuff done today. And the brain's like, woohoo, you checked some things off your to-do list. But as you look back over the years, we're not really moving the ball forward. We didn't double our income last year. We didn't double the number of people our company reached last year. We're just kind of spinning our wheels in the same place. Now, what I want you to do is think of somebody that you've known, or maybe you've read about. This is the kind of person that owns multiple companies, but even though they own 3 full-time companies, they don't work 3 full-time jobs, right? They work maybe 10 hours a week. And then they spend another 10 hours a week playing golf or tennis or fishing with their friends or going shopping with their friends or whatever it is. And they have plenty of time for their hobbies. They have plenty of time for community involvement, giving back. They have plenty of time for you. You could call them in the middle of the day, and even though they're overseeing multiple multi-million-dollar projects in multiple companies, they still have time to take your call and they're happy to hear from you. The kind of person that the less they do, the more they make. When we do what's called a mind scan with that kind of individual, I want to show with you how their brain solves problems and how their brain thinks of doing things differently. So in this picture here, I want you to notice that it makes kind of the opposite shape. So the action taker shape, we call that the chevron of stress. This shape here, the kind of person that has the golden touch, where the less they work, the more they make, I call this the leadership V. Notice that they have a very high emphasis on how other people feel, and they have a very high emphasis on time spent planning, but a very low emphasis on taking action. Now, this is very counterintuitive. You would think that taking action is what causes things to get done, but it doesn't, and I want to share with you why. On the planning side, there's no limit to the number of systems you can put in place to serve you. There's no limit to the number of people that you can rally together and build up to serve the mission. But if you personally are doing the work, there's a very hard limit on what you personally can get done. So for the kind of person where the less they do, the more they make, where they always have enough time, they always have enough money, everything they do, it's like the golden touch. When they're stressed, when there's a problem or an emergency, what their brain does is it says, there's more here than I have time to get done. Because of that, I need to spend more time planning. There's more here than I have time to get done. Because of that, I need to spend more time investing in people and training them and raising them up. This way of solving problems, this way of thinking causes you to double your effectiveness year after year. So you're making more money, you're reaching more people. To half your effort year after year. So you're working less to achieve those results. Now, if you're taking notes, I want to leave you a quote that will help you to stay on track with this. And the quote is, "If I'm doing the work, my business is falling behind." You see, because your job as a leader isn't to do, your job is to cause. If you're doing the work, then in that moment, you're not training somebody else to do the work. So that means tomorrow, you'll still have to be the one doing the work. If you're doing that work, then in the moment, that means you're not building systems to support you. So there's no automation, there's no process, there's no efficiency. So tomorrow, you'll still be the one having to do the work. A leader's job is not to do, it's to cause. If we're doing the work, we're falling behind. So there's 2 things that are your job as a leader. Number 1 has to do with time. The more systems we have in place, the more free time we have to build more systems. The second one has to do with income. Without people, nothing happens. So the leader's job is to build systems and build people, processes, efficiency, planning, looking ahead, contingencies, emotional bank deposits, high-value relationships, getting the right people in the right seats, having those conversations, building relationships, people and relationships. If you will do these 2 things, you are now spending your time on substantial measuring sticks. This is something that you can look down and answer the question confidently. Am I doing a good job as a leader? Are you building systems right now? Are you building up people right now? You're doing a good job as a leader. If you have any questions about how to apply this in your work, I'd be happy to get on the phone with you. Let's walk through a couple scenarios and see how you can put this to place so that you've got more free time tomorrow and you've got more results to show for it. Hope to see you in the next video.